I was just watching old basketball clips on YouTube, until I saw my wife, dancing on screen with another man, the same night she told me she was on a business trip. I was up late the other night, around 10 p.m., just winding down watching some old YouTube clips on my laptop. To the side of the screen I had a bunch of videos queued up, mostly basketball stuff, the usual. One of the clips was a highlight reel featuring an old favorite of mine, Aaron Big A Lawson. It showed him sinking this incredible three-pointer right at the buzzer. It was clean, perfect arc, nothing but net. The guy had his long blonde hair tied back in a ponytail, looked more like a Hollywood star than a ballplayer. I've known Aaron since college. Back then he was already a legend on campus, the kind of athlete people followed around just hoping to breathe the same air. Turned out he lived in the same apartment complex as I did, so we'd bump into each other a lot, especially during the off-season. After he went pro, he was drafted by the Capitol Blazers, the team closest to where I live in Virginia. That was about 3 years ago. He's retired now, working as a presenter for Blazer TV, doing commentary and such. I still watch his stuff now and then, mostly for the nostalgia. It reminds me of simpler times, I guess. But the next video in my queue wasn't about basketball at all. It was some kind of entertainment news clip, and there was Aaron, Big A, on a dance floor in Miami wrapped up with a stunning blonde. The way they were moving, there was no mistaking it. It was sensual, intimate, a little too much for public TV. And the blonde? That was my wife. Her name's Lisa, but everyone calls her Lacey. The video had been filmed that same night and had just gone live online. The headline punched me in the gut. Big A, another conquest. I sat there frozen, watching the full 3 minutes play out. Toward the end of the clip, the two of them locked into a kiss. One of those full-body, no room for misinterpretation kind of kisses. I didn't know what to feel. Anger, humiliation, heartbreak, they all hit me at once. I downloaded the video without thinking, like I needed to hold on to it for proof that I hadn't imagined what I saw. Then I picked up my phone and called Lacey. She didn't answer. I checked the timestamp on the clip. It had been recorded about an hour earlier. Lacey was supposed to be at a business conference in Miami, a 4-day event with her advertising team. One of the guys attending with her was a friend of mine, Bart Connors. We'd known each other for years. I called Bart. When he picked up, I kept my voice steady. "Hey Bart. It's Marty, you know." He paused. "Marty? Hey man, everything okay?" "Not really," I said. "Do you know where Lacey is right now?" He went quiet. "Marty? Oh man. I was hoping this wouldn't come up like this. Look, yeah. We've all seen the clip. Everyone here has. It's everywhere now." My chest tightened. "Is she with him? Big A?" Bart sighed. "Honestly? We think so. They met up Tuesday when we all checked in. Got real close real fast. She hasn't spent a single night in her assigned room. Her roommate says she's been gone every night. We just assumed she was with him." "I'm so sorry, man." I felt my whole world shifting under me. "I need to know, Bart. Has it been going on longer than this trip? Is this just the tip of it?" "I wish I could tell you," he said. "All I know is what we've seen. She still shows up to the day meetings, but she skips out on breakfast, lunch, dinner. Stays gone all night. I think she's still in the hotel somewhere, just not where she's supposed to be." "All right," I said, holding back every emotion in me. "Tell her not to bother coming home. If that's what she was planning, she can forget it." "If she asks, I'll tell her," Bart said softly. "I'm really sorry, Marty." "Me too," I muttered. "See you around." Lacey and I met in college. We were both in our early 20s taking upper-level math courses. I'll never forget the first time I saw her. It was the first day of class. I walked in, looked around the room, and there she was, sitting by herself, head down, sketching something in her notebook. She wasn't trying to get anyone's attention, but I couldn't look away. There were only 5 other students in the room, just guys, but she sat off on her own, completely absorbed in her little world. And right then, I knew I'd never seen anyone so beautiful. I remember the day I sat down at the desk beside her. She looked up at me with this sly grin and said, "Well, looks like someone was smart enough to grab the best seat in the room." I chuckled, already wondering if I smelled weird or something. I glanced around the classroom, just a bunch of quiet guys, all a little hunched over their notebooks, classic shy types. Definitely the sort of crew that didn't make the first move. And me? I wasn't exactly a math nerd, even though I was in that class. I mean, I was decent at it, but I wasn't built for the library life. I'm about 5'7", about 150 pounds, brown hair, brown eyes. I kept in shape, looked decent enough, and women generally responded to me all right. Not head turns everywhere I went, but I'd been told I had a certain charm, a bit of character. So, I leaned in slightly and said, Nah, you don't smell strange, though I might need to get a little closer to really confirm that. She laughed and nodded toward the other guys. They're all shy little brainiacs. You aren't one of them, huh? You a botanist or something? I asked, playing along. Nope, she said, stretching out her hand toward me. I'm Lauren. We shook hands and I replied, Martin Lee, but most people just call me Marty. Funny thing, when we get married you won't even have to change the monogram on your suitcase or your towels. She smiled at that just as the professor walked in and class began. After the lecture we walked together toward the student union. The breeze outside made her blonde hair dance a little, and under the light, those green eyes of hers sparkled. She was tall, probably 6 feet or just under, and while she wasn't trying to be the center of attention she had this glow about her like the prettiest girl from the neighborhood next door. I glanced over at her and said, You know, I'll bet you were kind of surprised when none of those guys in class made a move to sit next to you. Every one of them probably wanted to. She tilted her head, smiling thoughtfully. Yeah, actually I was kind of surprised. Normally I have to keep them from tripping over themselves. And I just slipped right in there and took full advantage of your brief moment of vulnerability, I teased. Now you're stuck. She laughed. I have another class in 20 minutes, but I appreciate the boldness. And I like talking to you. Then maybe dinner sometime? I asked. I mean, since we're in the same class and all, it wouldn't hurt to get to know each other better. She paused, her smile softening. I can't. I have a guy and he's not the sharing type. Had to try, I said, raising my hands in surrender. But I hope we keep talking, she added. I like you, Marty. At the very least, we'll see each other in class. We did. Twice a week, actually. The course was no joke, tougher than I'd expected, and I had to really grind to keep up. One day after class, I asked her about a tricky problem I'd been stuck on, and she walked me through it like it was nothing. Do you ever struggle with this stuff? I asked her as we walked out of the building. She shrugged. Not really. I'm pretty solid with math. You? I'm a chemistry major, but I've got to pass this class to stay on track. It's been eating up most of my study time. She raised an eyebrow. Wait, are you hitting on me again? I told you, I've got a boyfriend. I smiled. No, not at all. I respect that. I'm just hoping you might be willing to help me study. That's all. Like a tutor. She thought about it for a second. Fine. We'll meet at the diner. 4 o'clock. Deal, I said, and that was that. We started meeting at this little diner just off campus. Nothing fancy, but it had decent coffee and a quiet corner booth. She'd bring her notes and we'd go over the material. And every now and then we'd talk about more than just numbers. As time passed, I started to really get to know Lauren. Our connection grew beyond just solving equations or cramming for tests. We talked about life, goals, random memories, even future plans. There was a comfort in our conversations that felt natural, unforced. Then one afternoon, while we were sitting at our usual booth in the diner, books spread out between us, this tall, broad-shouldered guy walked over to the table. Lauren glanced up and gave him that smile she always used when she wanted to disarm someone. It was almost unfair how effortlessly charming she could be. Marty, she said, looking from me to him, this is Rashad, my boyfriend. Rashad, meet Marty from my math class. I stood and shook his hand. Rashad had a calm presence about him. He was probably around 5'8", solidly built, maybe 220 pounds. The guy had the kind of physical confidence you see in athletes. He sat down next to Lauren and we quietly closed our notebooks, sensing it was time to switch gears. Rashad didn't waste time. So, what brings you to upper-level math with Lauren and all the number crunchers? I gave a small smile. I'm a chemistry major. This class checks a requirement box, and it actually helps with some programming work I'm doing. That seemed to interest him, and before long the three of us were talking about the quirks of college majors, how they often threw in random course requirements that didn't seem to fit. It turned out Rashad was studying physical education and played on the university's hockey team. I'm hoping to make something out of hockey, he said. But if not, teaching high school phys ed wouldn't be a bad path either. I nodded. That's a solid plan. Way more focused than mine. Chemists get jobs, sure, but figuring out exactly what I want to do? That's still a work in progress. Lauren hadn't said much, so I turned to her. And what about you? What's your long-term game? She smiled at me, then looked away as if lost in thought. I'm still riding the elevator, she said softly. Haven't picked a floor to get off yet. The conversation shifted, and a few days later it was Friday, the day of the bridge tournament. I wasn't really in the mood for crowds or noise, so I went back to my dorm, opened the window, and let the late afternoon air settle in as I flipped through a novel. It was peaceful, at least until I saw something that made my heart skip. About 2 hours in, I noticed Rashad walking out of the front entrance to the dorms. Something about the timing felt off. I didn't know why exactly, but I stood up, crossed the hall, and knocked on Stephanie's door. There was a long pause before she answered. When she finally opened it, she looked flustered. Her hair was messy, her dress clung to her, and she was barefoot, standing there in flip-flops. "Hey Steph," I said. She leaned against the doorframe. "Marty, not the best time. Kind of dealing with something." My eyes gave me away before I said anything else. She looked at me, then down, and muttered, "Oh, you saw." Her voice dropped. "Yeah, panties on the floor. So much for secrets." I didn't say anything. I just gave a small nod and turned to go. My thoughts were racing, trying to piece it all together. I didn't want to believe it, didn't want to think about what I'd just stumbled into. But the silence in the hallway spoke louder than anything else could. Despite all that, my connection with Lauren kept pulling me back in. When we were together, the world felt quieter. There was something in the way she talked to me, in how she listened, that made me believe we understood each other. That night we spent time alone, just the two of us. I won't go into detail, but I will say this. I'd never felt so in sync with someone before. We were fully present with each other, and whatever doubts I had seemed to vanish, at least for a while. We talked, laughed, shared more than just physical closeness. It was emotional too. At that moment I thought maybe, just maybe, this could be something more than a fleeting chapter in college. After college, life started to take shape. I landed a job working as a programmer for a government contractor stationed at the Pentagon. It wasn't glamorous, but it was solid, good pay, good future. Lauren got hired by a public relations firm downtown. Her role focused mostly on handling corporate advertising campaigns, aimed at swaying the eyes and ears of government folks. Senators, congressional aides, agency reps, you name it. Around that time, my grandfather passed away and left me his old house. It was a 3-bedroom place not far from my office. The lease had just ended with the tenants, so Lauren and I decided to move in. It had a big kitchen, a finished basement, and the garage had even been converted into extra living space. It felt like a fresh start, something of our own. But now, sitting in that same house, I was wondering if everything I'd seen in that video from Miami had been something new, or if it was just the first time I caught it. More questions kept rolling in. I couldn't stop them. And one of the hardest was whether the life we had built, the family, the memories, the trust, was just a lie from the beginning. The morning after I confronted her about the video, I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I took the kids aside, our daughters, and asked them to do a DNA swab test with me. I did it to protect them, to shield them in case things blew up publicly. The video was already on YouTube. It was only a matter of time before the world started talking. I wasn't going to let them be blindsided at school by whispers or looks they didn't understand. It was Friday. They had to be in class. Tests and group activities started around 10. Then my phone rang. Lauren. I saw her name flash across the screen. I didn't pick up. It went to voicemail. "Marty," her voice cracked through the recording. "Please pick up. Please." I didn't. About 20 minutes later, a cab pulled up outside the house. I watched her step out alone, dressed nice, but there was no trace of the woman I used to know. She looked frantic, like her world had just flipped upside down. She rushed to the door, fumbled with her code, but it didn't work. Then came the knocking, the bell, the tears. When I finally opened the door, she was sobbing. "I'm so sorry, Marty," she cried. "I never imagined things would turn out like this." "You don't live here anymore, Lauren," I told her calmly. "Your things are in the garage. Until you find a place, maybe you can stay with Stephanie." "Marty, please," she said, her voice shaking. "There's nothing going on with him. I love you." I looked at her. "You kissed him. In public. While I was at home raising our daughters. You cheated, Lauren. With big A." She tried to explain, tried to justify it. "I called you to apologize." I cut her off. "You want to apologize? Then accept this, you blew up our marriage. You don't get to come back in here like nothing happened." Then I heard his voice. "Aaron." "Hey man," he said. "I didn't mean for any of this." "Run," I said. "Come." Measured, but firm. "If you see me coming, just run." He went quiet. No attitude, no defense. Just silence. Then he hung up. But I had his number now. Not that I planned to use it. I just wanted it. Maybe for closure. Maybe to remind myself this wasn't a dream. After that, I stopped referring to Lauren as my wife. In my head, she was now just the mother of my children. That was it. Later, her mom, Ellen, called. She tried to smooth things over. "You're hurting, Marty," she said. Your pride's taken a hit, but don't let that end your marriage. It was just a few days. Ellen, I interrupted, I love and respect you. Always have. But your daughter's choices didn't just dent our marriage, they destroyed it. Please don't ask me to fix something that's already gone. She raised her hands, probably realizing it was no use. I kept going. You all need to start thinking about how life looks after the divorce. Because that's where this is headed. Just then I heard another voice, Lauren's sister Linda. Mom, she whispered, almost choking on her own breath. What did she do? How could she sleep with him? That last part came out like a sob, and it echoed exactly what I was feeling. Disbelief. That kind of pain you can't quite describe. The kind that settles into your bones. I made a terrible mistake, Lauren said through tears. I'm trying to understand it myself, but just know. I still love you girls. And your dad. Very much. Betsy didn't flinch. She was always the stronger one, more direct, more like me in that way. If you really loved Dad, she said firmly, her voice starting to crack, you wouldn't have done this. You recorded it. Everyone can see it now. How could you let that happen? That's when her tears came and Lauren finally broke down too. I'm sorry, she whispered. I really am. I know it's a mess. It was just a mistake. A huge, awful mistake. She reached out to hug Linda, who leaned in hesitantly. Betsy stood back, arms crossed, still shaking her head. Is it true? Linda asked me later when Lauren stepped out. Was it just that one time? I don't know, I admitted. I don't think this has happened before. But honestly, I can't be sure. And if it turns out it was just once? She asked. Could you forgive her? No, I said. Quickly. Quietly. No need for more words. We moved on to the next step, the hard part. Finances. We talked about our incomes, who handles what for the girls, and how to make this as clean as possible. Joan, the attorney I'd met with, seemed relieved when she found out the house was mine, bought years before the marriage. The kids had grown up there, and that gave me the upper hand when it came to keeping stability in their lives. Joan also liked the fact that my job let me work remotely. I could be the parent at home more consistently. It was clear I'd be able to keep the house, and the girls wouldn't have to deal with too much change. As we wrapped up, Joan gave me a look, half joking, half serious. Just remember, if you're planning anything impulsive, I might be obligated to report it. I gave her a tired smile. Don't worry, Joan. That kind of knowledge you'll never have to carry. We signed some initial paperwork, I paid the retainer, and she said she'd start drafting the documents right away. By the time I got home, it was almost noon. As I stepped inside, I heard my father's voice from the living room. Hey son, he said gently. How are you holding up? I gave a tired shrug. Just got back from the lawyer. He raised his eyebrows. And what did they say? We talked about the divorce, I said. The real stuff. What happens next? He looked at me for a second like he wanted to give me advice but knew better than to push too hard. Just don't drown in it, he said finally. When things get dark, run, don't sit in it. I nodded and left it at that. Later that afternoon, my thoughts kept drifting back to Aaron. To what happened. To what could have happened if I'd lost it. One memory wouldn't let go, the gun. Over the years, I'd owned 2 legal handguns, a .45 revolver and a smaller Smith & Wesson. But a while back, while jogging on a trail outside town, I spotted something shiny in the tall grass. Turned out to be a .380 Taurus, and it was fully loaded. Looked like someone had ditched it. The serial number had been scratched off. I took it home, cleaned it up, and kept it. I know, I probably shouldn't have. But something about it felt like a relic of someone else's story. Now it was part of mine. That day, I took it out of the safe, packed up a couple boxes of ammo, and drove out to my friend's property. He had a few acres out past the edge of town, including a makeshift shooting range. No one was there. He and his family were off in Florida for vacation. I spent the next hour unloading box after box. I didn't even care about the aim. I just needed the sound, the weight, the action. It was like trying to empty my anger one shot at a time. The gun wasn't anything fancy. In fact, it was heavier and clunkier than my registered ones. But it worked. And in that moment, it gave me something I needed, something steady. On the way back home, I sat in silence. Everything was changing. And all I could do now was keep going. On the way back, I stopped by the pharmacy. I'd been feeling off, mentally, emotionally, physically. Ellen and my mom had both called earlier that morning, and based on what they said, I guess I was starting to worry about myself too. When I got home, Milt was there. He looked at me with concern. You all right, Marty? I sat down, rubbed my temples, and sighed. Not even close. I feel worse than I ever have. He nodded. I remember when my mom passed. Took me a full year just to start feeling like a human again. Only thing that helped was staying busy, working, moving, keeping the days rolling. Yeah, I muttered. That's easy to say when you're a step removed. But it's been one day, and it feels like the world's already moved on. He hesitated. If it means anything. Lauren hasn't said a word since she showed up at our place. She's not eating. She's barely functioning. Ellen's thinking about calling a doctor. That hit harder than I expected. Not because I pitied her, but because I didn't. Not really. Maybe I should have, but I couldn't. And then, everything changed. Milt and I were talking in the park when we spotted him, Aaron, or Big A, as the world knew him. He was playing a pickup game nearby, casually dribbling like nothing had happened. I don't even remember reaching for the glove box where I kept the pistol. I just remember the tightness in my chest. Before I could act on anything, Milt leaned on the horn. The sound startled Aaron. He lost the ball, which rolled down into the street. He chased after it without looking like a kid. And just like that, a car, coming from the opposite direction, hit him hard. He flew over the hood and onto the pavement. Milt kept driving, stunned silent. I jumped out and ran to Aaron. He was still breathing when I reached him. Still conscious. But I knew. I saw it in his eyes. I didn't kill him, I told Milt later, my voice barely steady. He went after the ball. A car just hit him. He was scared, Milt replied, jaw clenched. He rushed out like a fool. And it wasn't your fault. I stood there in the middle of that quiet street and for a split second, I smiled. I don't know why. Maybe it was relief. Maybe it was the chaos of everything finally catching up to me. Maybe it was the fact that I didn't have to confront him anymore. God forgive me, but that moment brought me peace. Marty, Milt said softly, it was an accident. Clear as day. God works in strange ways. I didn't argue. I just said, he wasn't her boyfriend, but someone's going to have to tell Lauren. Milt gave a slow nod. News'll probably beat us to it. How is she doing anyway? I asked. Still not good. But you seem lighter. I exhaled. Not proud of it, but yeah. I felt betrayed when she cheated. But when he died, some part of me felt released. We changed the subject not long after. That Monday, Joan Ellis, my lawyer, called. First thing she asked about was how I felt regarding Aaron's death. I could tell she didn't know I'd been there. My name hadn't been mentioned in the news and I hadn't volunteered it. I ended up telling her everything. The whole story. She was shocked. Maybe a little suspicious. But she didn't press too hard. Seems like fate made its move before you had to, she finally said. Our first official counseling session was scheduled the following week, Monday at 10 a.m. I showed up right on time, not because I was eager to talk to Lauren, but because I didn't want to be stuck alone in a waiting room with her. The counselor's name was Sylvia Price. She was probably in her 50s, a soft-spoken woman with a kind face and a professional calm. Her office was modest but warm, like it had been designed to ease tension on site. Lauren and I hadn't exchanged a single word before that moment. She looked like a ghost, pale, hollow, trembling a little. It wasn't just guilt in her eyes, it was emptiness. She had once promised me forever. And now I sat across from her wondering how she'd been able to betray me so easily and so publicly. Somewhere in the back of my mind I thought of my grandparents. They died in a car accident when I was a kid. It was the first time I learned how quickly life could take something from you. And sitting in that room with Lauren, it felt like another kind of loss. A slow, bitter kind that doesn't hit all at once but keeps burning long after the moment passes. The pain lingered for a long time, weeks, months even. But nothing I'd felt before in my life, no loss, no grief, could compare to what Lauren had done. Not even close. I told Sylvia, our counselor, I would never, ever allow myself to be that vulnerable again. If Lauren could do this to me, someone I built a life with, then anyone could. I can't give that kind of power to someone ever again. Across from me, Lauren had her head in her hands, sobbing uncontrollably. But I couldn't stop. I had to say it. Sylvia asked, Marty, how does it make you feel seeing her like this? I exhaled slowly. I don't even know anymore. I guess sad. And angry. Mostly angry. It was all so obvious. It wasn't a mistake you wake up from. It was a choice. A series of them. Then she asked the question I'd been avoiding, the one that had been floating in the back of everyone's mind since the news broke. And how do you feel about Mr. Johnson's death? I looked out the window for a moment. You know, I was there. I watched it happen. I watched him die. And in that moment I was glad. I won't pretend otherwise. I felt relief. I hated him so much that I wanted to do it myself. But someone else got there first. I paused, shook my head. I know it's ugly. I know how it sounds. But I won't lie, not in here. He tore my life apart over a fling. And when I found out he was gone, some twisted part of me felt cheated, like I didn't get to confront him properly. That's the truth. Sylvia's voice softened. Why do you feel that Lauren's affair with Larry destroyed your entire life? Because I wasn't out chasing anything. I wasn't looking for someone new. I was a family man, completely. That was all I ever wanted to be. And she shattered that. Lauren finally lifted her head and began to speak, her voice low, eyes red and swollen. When I met Larry, I wasn't looking for anything either. But he was persistent, charming in his own way. He knew I was married. I told him I wasn't interested, but he kept at it. She stared at the carpet. When I found out we'd both be in Miami, he started playing it up, like fate had put us there together. I should have walked away right then. I didn't. And even though I kept saying I wasn't going to let anything happen, I was flattered. She laughed once, bitterly. It was reckless. I knew what kind of man he was. But when we got to the hotel and we were checking in, it was like all the boundaries I had set just faded. Her voice shook. I didn't think it would go that far. But it did. The first night we crossed the line. And once we did, it didn't stop. I woke up the next morning late for breakfast, still feeling guilty. And yet, I brushed it off. She kept going, the words spilling out like she'd been holding them in for too long. I knew people were looking at me differently. Some of my coworkers even gave me these knowing glances, like they'd already figured it out. And then, the video came out. The clip of us dancing at that club. The one that went viral. I saw it online before Marty ever mentioned it. And I panicked. My whole body went cold. She closed her eyes. I knew my reputation was at risk. But worse, I knew Marty would see it. Then she looked over at me, voice cracking. I ran into Bart, your friend, on the shuttle to the airport. I asked if you'd called, and he just nodded, said you had. Every night. While I was gone. I didn't even check my phone, Marty. Not once. I just ignored it. Sylvia gave her a moment before speaking again. What would you say to Marty now? I don't deserve him, Lauren whispered. I know that. And I know I destroyed the trust we had. I can't undo it. I can't bring Larry back either. But when my mom told me about what happened, that he was hit by a car, I felt sick. I was so sorry. For what I did. For what it cost. She paused, then added softly, he asked me to call you. To tell you everything. But I couldn't. I was too ashamed. I guess I could have called him. Reached out. Said something. But now, he's gone. And that emptiness? It's something different. It's not just sadness, it's this hollow space inside me that I don't know how to fill. If I ever end up with another man, I don't think I'll forget what happened with Larry. At least I didn't think I would. But now I'm not so sure. I can't shake the thought that if I had just said no, if I'd stood firm, maybe he'd still be alive. Maybe none of this would have happened. I know that kind of thinking doesn't make sense, but it won't leave me alone. When I finally asked Marty for forgiveness, it wasn't calculated. It wasn't rehearsed. I just wanted him to hear me. But he didn't believe me. And honestly, I don't blame him. Even if he could believe me, even if I somehow found the words to explain it all perfectly, I think he'd still walk away. And I wouldn't stop him. Being with me now would be like sitting next to a time bomb, never knowing if it would go off again. He asked his lawyer to have the papers served. And today, they were. I still write in this journal. Maybe someday it'll help me understand myself better, or at least remember what this felt like. In our last counseling session, I noticed something different in Marty. He wasn't as angry. He looked tired but peaceful in a way, and somehow that made it real. That calm told me what I needed to know. It's over. I read once that people sometimes sabotage their own lives when they're searching for something new. Something thrilling. I thought that might be what I did, that I wanted out, wanted freedom. But now that I have it, I hate it. I don't feel sexy. I don't go out. I haven't touched a drink in weeks. Brady Bean, someone I used to flirt with before any of this, has asked me out more than once. I've said no every time. Not because I'm trying to be good, I just don't care anymore. I feel numb. I keep wondering how long this will last. As for Marty, today was the official end. The divorce is finalized. He got primary custody of the twins and they'll stay in the house they grew up in. That part comforts me at least. He's a good father. We didn't talk about the final arrangements, just me, Ellen, and the lawyer. Marty and I hardly speak now. And when we do, it's brief, stiff. He avoids me and honestly I can't blame him. Seeing me hurts him. I see it in his eyes. So we keep our distance. Ellen told me she's worried about me. Says I'm becoming a recluse. I don't disagree. I barely go outside anymore. We live near each other, sure, but I hardly ever see Marty out in the neighborhood. And when I do, I don't say anything. He's made it clear, he doesn't want sympathy, especially not from me. And deep down, I know I'll never get it. I still don't fully understand why I did what I did. I try to unravel it, but nothing makes it right. I shocked him. I devastated him. And yes, I was stunned too, especially the day Larry died. I was the one who called 911. Marty was right there watching. I thought maybe if he saw it, if he witnessed Larry's death, it might give him some sort of closure. I thought maybe it would help. But later, he told me it only left him feeling worse, like someone had taken justice from his own hands. He felt robbed. I knew he had the gun with him that day. I saw the way he looked at Larry in the days after the affair went public. I believed that if something didn't intervene, he might do something irreversible. And I couldn't let that happen, not for my sake but for the girls. I wanted my daughters to grow up with a father they could rely on, not someone sitting behind bars. Ellen said she understood. She's been trying to hold both ends of this collapsing bridge together. But even she asked me once, did Larry really deserve to die? And I didn't have an answer. Thanks for listening. If this story touched you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below. Have you ever stayed silent when your heart was breaking? Would you have done the same? And hey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We've got more stories to tell. Some messy, some healing. All human. See you in the next one.